What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the NASCAR Cup Series slate on Draftkings at Texas Motor Speedway. Got a big weekend of races, Truck Series and Cup Series on Sunday, and Xfinity's on Saturday, so be sure to check out videos for all of those races. Before I get into everything else, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on notification bell. All that stuff really helps me grow. Had a ton of growth throughout NASCAR, NFL, NBA. NBA's over now, which is kind of sad, but NFL's still going on, and as NASCAR's about to take a close, make sure to go check out my NFL stuff. Got a lot of good content over there. I'm pumping out videos pretty much every day this week, and I have 2 more coming out later today, so be sure to stick around for all of that stuff. Let's get into the content, to the videos, where we're going to start with the most expensive driver, Kevin Harvick. Starting on the pole, look, Harvick at 1.5 mile tracks is just insane. He is the second best average finish at Texas, the best at intermediates, second best at large ovals, and best at cookie cutters. When you go look at average position, he's first in all of them except for cookie cutters, where he ranks 4th. When you go look at lap sled, he is the most at Texas, the most at intermediates, the most at large ovals, the most cookie cutter tracks. When you go look at the last 5 races, he's an average finish at 6.2, the most lap sled in the field, most fastest laps, best driver rating, or second best driver rating. I mean, dude's just been insane. I mean, it's just... yeah, Harvick's probably going to be the dominator. I mean, especially starting on the pole, he's just going to get out to an early lead, I'd expect. I mean, this is just where he's good. So, I don't really have any bad things to say about Kevin Harvick. I think he's a great play. Denny Hamlin, 10,800, starting 7th. Now, his average finish at Texas is actually not good. 24th best average finish at Texas. He is 6th best at intermediates, 8th best at large ovals, and only 13th at cookie cutters. And it's not like... it's really not like he's just finishing bad like we see sometimes. Like, he has a bad average position too, at the 17th best at Texas, 8th best at intermediates, 9th best at large ovals, and 14th best at cookie cutters. When you go get laps led, only 68 at Texas. That's not even one of the highest in the field. He does that. I mean, 1,018 at the intermediates, 451 at large ovals are pretty good, and 124 at cookie cutters. To be honest, these tracks really aren't his strong suit. Like, I mean, I think Denny Hamlin gets a rap, like, it's this year of, like, yeah, he's just been so dominant. I mean, he has, but the 1.5 mile tracks are really not his strong suit. He's really good at short tracks. He's really good to, like, really big tracks, so, like, Michigan. He's really good at Kansas. That's, like, kind of an outlier, but, like, for the most part, these 1.5 mile cookie cutter tracks, he isn't, like, the best at. These aren't the tracks he just succeeds at. So I think Denny Hamlin's actually going to get a ton of ownership this week, and I mean, for a good reason. You know, he's had a great year, but I don't know if this is really the spot to get to him. I think there's other drivers, like, I'd just rather pay $300 more for Kevin Harvick, or $200 more for Kevin Harvick. I think there's other guys I'd rather pay for than Denny Hamlin. I mean, yeah, he's been dominant this year, but I don't think this is really a track where he succeeds at. I could be wrong and he ends up winning this race, and I'll look like an idiot, but I don't think this is the spot for him. Chase Elliott starts 4th, $10,500. He has the 11th best average finish at Texas, the 9th best average finish at intermediates, the 6th best average finish at large ovals, 7th best at cookie cutters. When you go look at lap sled, he has only 39 at Texas though, 873 at intermediates, 325 at large ovals, and 174 at cookie cutters. In the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 8.2, 173 lap sled. So he's been doing pretty good. You know, he's always a guy that's just in play as a dominator potential. He's done pretty well at the intermediates this year. 488 lap sled at intermediates this year. We see him do really well at the cookie cutters as well. Should have won one of the Charlotte races and should have won the other one. Did really well at Atlanta as well. So cookie cutter tracks seem to do pretty well for Chase Elliott. I think he's a good spot. This is definitely a spot I'm going to attack. Want him as one of my dominators in my pool of drivers. I definitely think he has a ton of upside, and definitely someone I want to get a lot of attention to. Martin Truex Jr. starts 6th. When it comes to Texas, doesn't really have the best average finish, only the 15th best average finish, but he does have the 2nd best at intermediates, 3rd best at large ovals, and 5th best at cookie cutters. This is another thing like Denny Hamlin. His average position at Texas really isn't all that fantastic. We did see him crash out here earlier this year. He has 25 laps led at Texas, which isn't the best, but 1,618 at intermediates and 815 at large ovals and 298 at cookie cutters, which I believe is the 3rd most behind Harvick and Busch, have just kind of dominated the past few years. The thing with Truex is he's really good at Charlotte, and Charlotte is a cookie cutter track that is just very similar to Texas Motor Speedway. He's really, really good at that racetrack. So this is definitely a spot where I could see him getting out front, leading some laps. He does have 0 laps led in the last 5 races. That's a little bit concerning, but an average finish of 9.2 is pretty good. He's going to need to win this race to get into the... I mean, he doesn't have to win to get in right now, but he's in that spot where pretty much, yeah, he's going to have to win to get in. So Martin Truex Jr. I think is a really good play. I'm going to get some exposure to him. I think this is a track where he can do well at. Definitely not my favorite dominator. I mean, it's kind of hard because my favorite dominator is Kevin Harvick, and it's by a lot. So the rest of these guys kind of just look like meh next to him, but you can't just play 100% of a guy, so unless you're playing one lineup. If you're playing one or two lineups, I would just only play Kevin Harvick. Like, it's none of the other guys I really want as a dominator. Brian Blaney's an interesting one. He starts 10th. He's $10,000. He has the 7th best average finish at Texas, 10th at intermediates, 11th at large ovals, and 8th at cookie cutters. When you go look at laps led, though, he has the second most laps led at Texas in the field at 235. He has 641 at intermediates, 507 at large ovals, and 282 at cookie cutters. So those are all really good numbers. But honestly, I don't really like playing drivers that are eliminated from the playoffs as a dominator. I said that in the Truck Series video. I just don't. They don't. For the most part, you don't usually see the non-playoff contenders dominating these playoff races because the playoff guys are going for a championship still. The other guys are just kind of going for a win, and championship over win, those are the guys that are going to push it harder. They're going to get the best equipment. Like Ryan Blaney, compared to his teammates Logano and Keselowski, is going to probably get the third worst equipment on that team right now because he's out of the playoffs and his teammates are still in. So I don't usually like going to non-playoff drivers as dominators, so I don't really think I'm going to go to Ryan Blaney. Yeah, I know he's good here, but that's just, I'm going to stick with the NASCAR game theory, if you want to call it. That's just not that's not how I like to play. If you don't want to play that way and you think Ryan Blaney could dominate anyway, it doesn't really matter, go for it. He's got great numbers here. He's got great laps led numbers. Recently hasn't been as great, but he does have great numbers. I'm not going to sit there and say it's a bad play. That's just not the way I play. Joey Logano starts second, $9,800, coming off a win last week at Kansas. He is the 4th best average finish at Texas, 4th at intermediates, 4th at large ovals, and 4th at cookie cutters. So he's probably going to finish in 4th place, right? When it comes to laps led, he has 89 at Texas, 1,156 at intermediates, 656 at large ovals, and 202 at cookie cutters. I think he's a good play. He has good numbers here as well. Average finish of 6.2 in the last 5 races and 93 laps led, coming off a win. The one thing I'll say about Logano is he's probably not really as focused on this race. He's locked into the playoffs, to the championship 4. There's no more points for him to get. Everyone's points reset at Phoenix. So he's not really racing for anything at this point. So I don't know what that really means. I don't necessarily think that Logano is probably going to be pushing as hard as some of these other guys at this point. Probably trying to try new things. I know this is a completely different track than Phoenix, but still try to figure out some things for that race. So he may not be one of my top tier plays. I don't know if he's someone I really want to go to as much. Brad Keselowski starts third at $9,600. He only has a 27th best average finish at Texas. Another guy who doesn't have a good finish here, but 5th best average finish at intermediates, 7th at large ovals, and 11th at cookie cutters. But when it comes to average position, again, not great. 23rd best average position at at Texas is not good. He does have 65 laps led here, 1,131 at intermediates, 527 at large ovals. When we go look at last 5 races, he only has an average finish of 14 and 289 laps led. I'll say this again, outside of his win at Richmond, I think he may have like 1 or 2 top 10s in the entire playoffs. So he really hasn't been running too well. Last week he had a good run, but he hasn't been running so great. But this is definitely a guy that I think I want to get to. I think my favorite dominators at the moment are Harvick, Elliott, Truex, and Keselowski. We'll talk about Bowman in a second. I think he's in it too. The thing with Brad Keselowski, he doesn't need to win to get in. I think he's either +9 or -9. Him and Elliott are the 2 on the bubble right now, and I think Truex is pretty far down. They're the 2 on the bubble that pretty much are fighting point spots, but a win would do great for Keselowski. The mile-and-a-half tracks really haven't been his strong suit this year either. I don't think he has a win. No, he won at Charlotte, but that was off a pit stop, and he won on a green-white checker with 2 laps to go. Like, the wins that he's impressed at have been New Hampshire. Bristol he won, but he was up there the whole race. I know that was another crazy ending. And then Richmond. Those were his really impressive wins this year. So I don't know if this is really the spot to get to him. I just know that this is a spot where he needs to do well, and he's going to be in the running. So I think those are my 4 favorite dominators at the moment. We'll talk about Bowman in a second. I think I said this last week, I think he's still a sneaky upside. I think Bowman could shock the world and make the Final Four, and that's just going to throw a huge gut wrench and everything. Because I don't even think anyone expected Logano really to make it either. So that would be fun. Fun for the last week with Harvick and Hamlin pretty much locked in unless someone else wins. So that'll make for a fun Martinsville. We'll talk about Bowman in a second. Jimmy Johnson starts 26, $9,400. That's a lot to pay for Jimmy Johnson in my opinion. Only the 25th best average finish at Texas, 16th at intermediates, 15th at large ovals, and 14th at cookie cutters. When we go look at laps led, he's not going to lead any laps. I mean, he does have 111 at Texas in the last 3 years, but that's a long time ago. I don't think this is a spot where he's going to get out front and dominate at this point. 172 at intermediates, 153 at large ovals, 117 at cookie cutters. Pretty much compared to everyone else around him, it's really low. When you go look at the last 5 races, only an average finish of 20.6. So, I mean, you can if you want to get there. I probably have some lines with Jimmy Johnson. I just rather pay for dominators in this range. So I don't really think that's a spot to get to. Kyle Busch starts 9th, $9,300. He's another guy who's eliminated from the playoffs. Like, if I'm playing him as a dominator, which starting 9th, you're pretty much playing him as a dominator. I don't really want to get there. He does have good numbers, though. 5th best average finish at Texas, 3rd best at intermediates, the best at large ovals, and 2nd best at cookie cutters. When you go look at laps led, 211 at Texas, which I think is the 3rd most. 1,579 at intermediates, which is also the 3rd most. 1,190 at large ovals, which is the 2nd most, and 683 at cookie cutters. That is as well the 2nd most. When you go look at the last 5 races for Kylie, he's an average finished 9.8 and 176 laps led. So he's running pretty well, but I don't think he's going to really be a dominator. We haven't really seen that from him all year, and I don't know why out of nowhere at Texas, when his teammates are going for a championship, that like Joe Gibbs all of a sudden is just going to give Kyle Busch the best car he's had all year. I don't see that happening. It's going to go to Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. So Kyle Busch probably not someone I want to get to. Now Alex Bowman's definitely someone I have interest in. He's $9,100, starts 5th. Now Texas, only the 17th best average finish here, but he does it the 12th best at intermediates, 13th at large ovals, and 16th at cookie cutters. I mean, none of those numbers are like really that great, but you come to laps led, the 14th Texas is a little bit but 601 at intermediates, 512 at large ovals, and 237 at cookie cutters. In the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 8.2 and only 7 laps led. But let's go look at this year's stats. I don't really usually get into these stats too much. These are usually only for the Patreon people, but we'll get into it this time because I think these are really important for Alex Bowman. At intermediate tracks, he does have 378 laps led, which isn't up there with some of the higher, like Harvick, Hamlin, Chase, Truex. But when you go look at the other spots, the large oval, which this is also a Texas, he has the 2nd most laps led at large ovals this year, and he has the 2nd most laps led at cookie cutter tracks this year. He knows how to get around these tracks. We've seen him drive very, very well at them. We saw him drive well at Charlotte this year. Saw him drive well at Atlanta this year. Oh, no, wait, he did bad at Atlanta, actually. Saw him do well at Texas earlier this year. So, like, he's been doing really good on these type of tracks with this package this year. So, Alex Bowman definitely is someone that could sneak up there and lead a bunch of laps. Like, I don't think anybody would be that surprised. He can win this race. He's been running pretty well as of late. So I think Alex Bowman's going to be a very sneaky dominator play. So yeah, my dominator guys are going to be Harvick, Chase Elliott, Truex, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman. If you want to throw in Hamlin, that's fine. I don't know if I'm going to go there. I don't know. Fading Hamlin's going to get you a lot of leverage on the field, and I don't think this is a spot where he's like a clear shot dominator. So, but those 5 I think I'd really like. We'll start going into more place differential options where we have Eric Jones, who has the 3rd best average finish at Texas. Just announced this week he's going to be taking over the 43 car, Richard Petty Motorsports, next year. He's the 11th best average finish at intermediates, 9th at large ovals, and 10th at cookie cutters. He's not going to lead you any laps. In the last 5 races for Eric Jones, he has an average finish of 11.2. So, I mean, yeah, he can get up inside that top 10 for sure. I don't hate going there. Definitely a spot I'm interested in. Clint Boyer, same thing, $8,700, starts 21st. 7th best average finish at Texas, 15th at intermediates, 14th at large ovals, and 12th at cookie cutters. When you go look at the last 5 races for Clint Boyer, he's an average finish of 12.8 and 9 laps led. He's not going to lead you any laps, but Clint Boyer, he can get up inside the top 10 as well. 2 good place differential options, in my opinion. Kurt Busch starts way too high for me. He is the 6th best average finish at Texas, 7th at intermediates, 5th at large ovals, and 3rd at cookie cutters. Like, he's good, but he's not going to lead you laps, and he can get you a top 5, and that's about it, and I'd rather just pay for guys that can move up 10, 15 spots in this range than that. So, William Byron, 8,300, starts 11th. I don't know how much I really want to get there. 13th best average finish at Texas, 19th at intermediates, 18th at large ovals, and 22nd at cookie cutters. Last 5 races for William Byron has an average finish of 19.6, so that's probably not a spot I'm going to really want to get to at all. I just don't think he's got a lot of spots to move up. Maybe he can get up in that top 10. That's probably about it. Eric Almirola starts 13th. He has 7th best average finish at Texas, 8th at intermediates, 10th at large ovals, and 9th at cookie cutters. When you go look at the last 5 races for Eric Almirola, he has an average finish of 11.8. Like, it's a good average finish, but, I mean, he can't really move up a too much either. I think he's fine, but, I'd rather play him than William Byron. Let's put it that way. I think he's okay. I'll probably get some exposure to him, but probably not a ton. Tyler Reddick, 7,900, starting 19th. Reddick actually has the best average finish at Texas at the field. Now he only has 1 race here where he finished 2nd earlier this year to his teammate Austin Dillon, which was even bigger of a shocker. But yeah, Tyler Reddick, he has 13th best average finish at intermediates, 12th at large ovals, and 6th at cookie cutters. He does know how to do well at the cookie cutters. We've seen him run well at Atlanta and Charlotte as well this year. Last 5 races for him, he has an average finish of 18. So that's a little concerning, but I think I'll play Tyler Reddick. He has top 10 upside, starting 19th. He has, more place differential than some of the other guys around him, so I think he's a good play. Matty D starts 14th. This one's kind of thin. I mean, we don't really like to look at Matty D's stats from the last few years because, he's in much better equipment now. But an average finish of 14.4 in the last 5 races is meh. So I don't know how much I want to get there. Austin Dillon was a guy I was really high on earlier this summer at Texas. But, I don't know how high I am on now. I'm sure he's going to be super highly owned because he won the freaking race. And, I remember I was really high on him, and people were like, oh, my God, that was a really good call. And I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good here. And 10th best average finish at Texas. I mean, he does well at the intermediate tracks. He's been doing well in them this year as well. Just a top 15 driver. But, he starts 12th, which is around where he started last time. But, I just don't think he's gonna win. He shouldn't have won that race. He won that race because of pit strategy. It's not like he was out there dominating the entire race. He got out front 20 laps to go, and they couldn't pass him because his package, you can't pass anybody. So that's why he won. I don't think that's gonna happen again. So I mean, I don't know. I'm probably not gonna get to Austin Dillon this time. He's good here. He can get up inside the top 5, but probably not the spot to get there. Cole Custer wrecked out at this race earlier this year, so he has the worst average finish in the field. I'm not really too worried about that. At intermediates, his 17th best average finish, 19th at large ovals, and 24th at cookie cutters. In the last 5 races for Cole Custer, he has an average finish of 15.2, which is pretty solid, so I think he's fine. I'd rather play Cole Custer than Austin Dillon because I think Cole Custer has more spots to move up. I think they can both finish 8th, and Cole Custer, that's more spots to move up, so I'd rather just get there. Christopher Bell at top 10 last week, which was really unfortunate to me because I played 0 Christopher Bell because he's just been horrible before that race, but he is 20th best average finish at Texas, 22nd at intermediate, 17th at large ovals, and 17th at cookie cutters. In the last 5 races for Christopher Bell, he has an average finish of 20.2. I'm probably not going to get there again. Starts 15th, doesn't really have a ton of spots to move up. Matt Kenseth, I think, cut a tire last race, ended his day. That was really bad for me as well on DraftKings. I had a lot of Matt Kenseth. I knew I was going wrong when I had a lot of Matt Kenseth in lineups. Yeah, that was just not a spot to get there. But look, he starts 32nd. He finished 18th here earlier this year. His numbers at the other types of tracks really aren't fantastic. In the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 26.8, but that also comes from a dead last week. He should be able to get you a top 25. That's at the very least what I feel like Matt Kenseth should be able to do. And I think that's a lot to ask for most of these guys down here. So I think he's okay. I don't hate getting there. I mean, he's a little expensive now, $7,100, but he starts so far back that it's hard to see him being able to kill you unless he wrecks out again. But assuming he doesn't crash out again, I think he's a fine play. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starts 22nd, $6,900 on DraftKings. When we go look at the last 5 races for Ricky, he has an average finish of 22.8. That's really not going to cut it for me. I mean, you can get him inside the top 20. I think he's okay. I'll probably get some exposure, but probably not the spot I want to go. You just saw Chris Buescher. He has an average finish of 16.8 in the last 5 races. This is a spot I will get to because he does have top 10 upside, where a lot of these guys down here really don't. So Chris Buescher does have that top 10 upside, so I don't hate it at all. He's a spot that I'm cool with getting to. He's pretty cheap. So yeah, I mean, 6,800 Chris Buescher's fine. Bubba Wallace, 6,600 starting 18th. That's starting too high for me. Bubba really has been running well recently. He does have a good average finish at Texas, but last 5 races only an average finish of 23. I'm not going to get there. Ryan Newman, I'm pretty much done playing Ryan Newman. He just doesn't ever produce. Last 5 races for Ryan Newman, he has an average finish of 23.2. May move up a few spots, but that's probably it. John Hunter Nemechek starts 24th, $6,300. 22nd best average finish at Texas isn't terrible. Last 5 races for John Hunter, he has an average finish of 24.6. McDowell's is 21.2. Priest is at 18.2. Dillon 23.8. LaJoie 27.4. We don't ever play Suarez. We'll go look at where they're starting. Look, McDowell can move up a little bit. I think Priest is fine. I do like Priest 5,900. He's probably going to be a chalk down here. But he's actually been running pretty well as of late. He's finished pretty high. Outside of last week, he had pretty much all top 20, so I think he's a good spot. Ty Dillon, I don't hate either, starting 27th. And I don't hate Corey LaJoie either. I think those 3 are actually pretty solid punt plays if you want to get there. McDowell's just too cheap for who he is and his equipment, but Priest, Dillon, and LaJoie aren't terrible, and we're just not going to play Suarez. But I think that's really all I got to say in this video. Hope you guys got a lot of good information out of this. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to check out the Xfinity and Truck Series videos if you haven't already, and check out my NFL stuff. But that's really all I got to say. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and hopefully we're going to make some money this weekend.